another good success story is from a station in the Memphis market. And they leveraged their ticketing brand to incentivize a local event creator to get just a taste of their marketing power, because this event creator had been somebody that they had been pitching for years. And they were convinced that the media company didn't have the right audience for them. But after the first year of using that ticketing platform, they did get a taste of the exposure that they would get. And they ended up doing over $18,000 in advertising spend each year for now the past 5 years that they've been using that platform.
This is Small Press, Big Ideas, a podcast about the business of local news in the United States. I'm your host, Paul Gewertz. Small Press, Big Ideas is about the opportunities and challenges that local news publishers are facing for their businesses. I'll sit down and talk with journalists, entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and more in the local news industry to find out what's working, what isn't, and how the local news ecosystem can innovate and flourish in the 21st century. All right, today on the podcast, I am joined by Sara McNamara. Sara is the Director of Business Development for Ticketsauce, where she's bringing event creators and local media companies together in the greatest partnership of all time. Sara, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much. Hopefully I didn't oversell it there.
No, that's a great pitch. You got to grab people's attention, right? Also on your LinkedIn, I love the, you're in Longmont, right? I love the picture. It looks like Long's Peak maybe, or one of those lakes up there in the background. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just north of there, actually, Loveland. But
Loveland, sorry. Those two get
that's okay.
synonymous in my head.
They're
both
neighbors.
have L's. Yeah, right. Awesome. Well, anyway, thanks for being here today. As I said, Sara works in the ticketing industry, working with local media companies. So I gave just a brief, quick bio, but if you could just give us a little bio on your life and career in your own words and kind of what brought you into your industry now, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So I actually started in hospitality management. That's what my degree is in. And while the job was great, I did really love working and having the opportunity to kind of go above and beyond to make someone's day better. The lifestyle sucked. So about 8 years ago, I was lucky enough to find something that still gave me the opportunity to provide people with a great experience. And it was a little bit more behind the scenes, more regular work schedule. And that's when I started in ticketing. Yeah. So honestly, my first role, I was an account executive, and it was my job to sell the ticketing platform to local event creators. And my job was made easier because we had a local partner in the area that was a media company. And I could say, you use our ticketing platform. It's just like Eventbrite, but it comes with a great local marketing partner all built in. And kind of from there, I've stayed in the ticketing and media space and have worked with not only event creators, but also those local media companies to ultimately help them create their own ticketing brands and take their event strategies to the next level.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's what I kind of want to dig into today. That's interesting because, all aspects of the business world around like local media, local journalism, all that stuff. So, and I wouldn't have even thought of this. I think I connected with you on LinkedIn, but it makes sense. It's a synchronicity there. And it's funny what you were just saying about the hospitality industry. I've never worked in it directly, but we get a little taste of it because my wife and I actually have an Airbnb upstairs. So and my wife mostly runs it, but it's just a little touch. But it's, we're the bosses, which is nice. We select the hours when it's open and everything. But it is like my wife goes to extra efforts and, it's really awesome when you get that great feedback of making people's day, like just a little something extra. We got like a little jar of York peppermint patties that we saw when we were on a road trip and put it in there. And all our reviews for like a month were like, oh, this is so great, so thoughtful. So just
I stayed in an Airbnb once and they brought us warm cookies at bedtime.
Oh, wow.
So,
as I mentioned before the interview, I have twin toddlers, so I don't know if we're going to go to that level of baking people cookies every night and breaking them.
Fair.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
Awesome. So, could you tell us about Ticketsauce, just which is your current company you're at, what the platform does, and what you're working on there as the Director of Business Development? Yeah,
absolutely. So, Ticketsauce is a ticketing platform, hence the name, and we enable media companies. Or marketing agencies or, even entrepreneurs, if they're into it, to create their own ticketing brand. And each of our partners brings something to the table that is unique just to them. And that ultimately becomes their differentiator when they're selling against other ticketing platforms like Eventbrite or eTix. And ultimately what makes Ticketsauce a bit different from some of our competitors in this space, because there are, other ticketing companies that enable this type of thing, is our ability to fully white label the platform. So you might not even know someone is using Ticketsauce. They are just using their local ticketing brand, which is great for our partners, especially their branding. And right now, what I'm focused on is bringing on new partners to the platform and strengthening the process and how we manage those partners and how we grow those partners' revenue. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? Getting people successful and doing what they need to do to succeed.
Awesome. It sounds like a fun position.
It is. I like it a lot.
Could you talk a little bit about local publishers that you work with, and what they're how they're utilizing the platform, or local media companies, whatever, anything in that vein,
Yeah.
how they're using it? Yeah.
So we work with all sorts of media companies, and like I had mentioned, we even work with like marketing agencies, and any media company or local media company that has an interest in expanding their event strategy and working with local event creators would be a great fit for creating their own local ticketing brand, which is really what we're enabling them to do at Ticketsauce. If I'm thinking about specific, alt weeklies and radio typically come to mind first, but even daily newspapers that have some great relationships with local events or event creators throughout the year, they would also be a great fit for ticketing. Maybe they're sponsoring events, those types of things. And I do like to look for media companies that have experience hosting their own events, or maybe they have an advertiser base that includes local event creators, or they might sponsor local events. All those types of things is what I'm usually looking for when I'm talking to someone.
Okay, that's great. And then, so you spoke about a local media company a couple times. You mentioned, and I think in our initial conversation, you talked about creating their own ticketing brands. Can you kind of tell me what you mean by that? Like kind of specifically, and or just what? I'll just let you talk. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so
To an outsider, yeah,
exactly right. It does kind of sound like nonsense when you're just saying, "Oh yeah, create your own ticketing brand." It's like, what does that mean? But I'm sure everyone that's going to be listening to this is familiar with Eventbrite. If not, they're one of the more popular, kind of more accessible ticketing companies out there. But what we do is with our white label platform, any local media company could create their own ticketing company. And the best way to think about it is like a localized alternative to Eventbrite. So they can use their own custom ticketing platform for their owned and operated events, of course, right? But they can also allow other companies in their communities to use it as a ticketing solution for their events. So other local event creators could use that platform to ticket their event instead of using something like Eventbrite or eTix or whatever else is out there, all of them, Ticketly, all of them. So this could be an event that the media company is sponsoring. It could be an annual festival that's using the platform, music or comedy venue, local nonprofits, or even performing arts studios and things like that.
Could you walk me through just, once again, like I've never even thought of this kind of business really before we met. Could you walk me through how the whole thing works? Because it seems like there's at least 3 or possibly 4 players in it. There's Ticketsauce. There's a local media company. There's maybe somebody throwing on the event, and then there's the people buying the tickets. So what are the mechanics there? Like how are you getting paid? How are from a revenue standpoint? How's that all work? Because
Yeah. So the revenue, the way that it works is the media company is going to be using the platform. It's their kind of ticketing platform. Of course, they don't have to do anything having to do with the actual creation of the tech, which is great, right? It is once they have their ticketing brand up there, they would allow other event creators to have their own organization set up within that ticketing brand. And then any events that are listed on the platform or any events that are selling tickets, whatever ticket fees are generated from those events, that's where the revenue comes from. Okay. So the media company is earning a revenue share on any of those ticket fees. That includes their own events, but it also includes any other events using it. And it costs the event creator nothing to use, which is
that's cool. Okay.
Great. Yeah. It gives them that great product to use for free and some great event exposure and a great marketing partner.
Okay. And this is a local media company and Ticketsauce, there's like a split on the ticketing thing. Okay, I got you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And then the creator, I guess, will be taking the actual price of the ticket or whatever, I guess. So
Yep.
there we go. Okay.
And so if
Okay.
they're listing a $25 ticket, they get $25 to them. And
I see.
there's actually a couple other ways outside of just the ticket fees that a media company could turn ticketing into a new revenue stream. So obviously the ticket fees is the most obvious way that they're going to be doing that. But the platform or, having a ticketing brand also gives the media company access to first party ticket buyer data for those ticket buyers that have opted into that kind of communication. And they can use that to raise their CPM rates on any email marketing that they're doing. So that's another great way that they can, get some more revenue through the door. And just an important note is that Ticketsauce doesn't use or sell that data. It stays with the media company and whatever the event creator is that's hosting that event. And then the best way, or my favorite thing to kind of push on to people, is that advertising upsells is another really great way to turn ticketing into additional revenue. So you can boost ticket sales, right? That's what most of these local event creators are using this ticketing company for, is because they have an engaged audience that is, listening to them. And we enable them to see which events are selling well. Like you can see leading up to an event, how many tickets an event has sold. So that really does give them a leg up and an opportunity to upsell that event creator and offer more marketing or advertising to them and ultimately, make more advertising revenue that they don't have to revenue share on. That's 100% theirs. So that's where there's a lot of upside,
Yeah, you're unlocking some doors. Now I'm seeing kind of a better picture of it. It's like I was just talking to a guy. I live in Montrose in Colorado on the western slope. It's a town of about 20,000. And sometimes my wife and I and our boys walk by the local theater, like the community theater. And they recently did a whole huge crazy renovation and it's beautiful. Like the whole exterior, interior, everything. And we didn't really notice we just walked by it and we were like, oh, what is this new thing they're doing? And so we weren't even aware of it. But so if they're going to put on, Hamlet or whatever it is, like I didn't know they were there, but if they are upsold into that Montrose Daily Press, ecosystem, I'm going to see it. And then, yeah, totally. And then it's all kind of connected there. When you talk about the branding, like they can make their own ticketing brand, do like from the user experience, do you literally just like upload your like logo on the back end and it's in different, like, is that just kind of how it looks for the white label part of it? So you don't see any Ticketsauce watermarks anywhere or anything? Okay.
Yep, exactly. So it'd be on their own domain. A lot of people do like a tickets dot, whatever their main domain is. And event creators even log into what appears to be their ticketing brand. There is no mention of Ticketsauce unless the portal owner, the media company wants to have the Ticketsauce branding there. Sometimes they like to have a little credibility, we'll call it.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But most times we're just completely white labeling everything, even down to our mobile box office app. So if it's volume1tickets.org, that's the ticketing portal. And then they have their own mobile app as well.
That's awesome. And you said kind of, I think on our initial call, you said your sweet spot is the alt weeklies. Is that just because they tend to lean, like you and I spoke, I'm very familiar with the Westward. I've read it my entire life growing up and everything. In Denver is a famous alt weekly out in the Denver metro area. But it was very culture driven. I used to, back when I was young and cool and actually went out and watch concerts and stuff like that, I would always find what concerts are coming up and everything in there. Is that still the case mostly on there?
It is. A lot of the alt weeklies have a very strong emphasis on events, things to do, things that are coming up. And really they use that as a differentiator against some of their, other larger competitors in the markets that they're in. And so that's always been a thing with the alt weeklies, is that event content. And it's very dependable. You always find something to do, pick up your local alt weekly. So
I'm just thinking of, maybe I'm dating myself here, but I'm thinking of the Westward in Denver. This is what we use for the stand-in of the all weekly. I only ever looked at it in print. Mm-hmm. Do you guys, is there anything you're utilizing outside of digital to get people in the ecosystem, or do you just link back to you'd have the URL that they chose for their white label through there? Is there anything else I'm missing there, that's not standard digital channels to get people into the ecosystem?
So lots of digital, of course, but also in print. We have some partners that will do like a full page ad for their ticketing brand, for example, right? That maybe it's the back cover or maybe it's near their calendar, and it will be all about their ticketing brand and then include the events that are coming up that are using their ticketing brand. So it does kind of double duty, that ad. It gets more ticket buyers interested, right? You have the little QR code down on the bottom of the ad. People can scan it and go directly to the ticketing page to buy tickets. And it gets more exposure for the ticketing brand itself and getting other local event creators to want to use that brand because, of course, they want to be included in this really cool, you know, physical ad space. And that
Right.
doesn't cost them anything.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even think about QR, but I've become a big
Mhm.
fan of QR codes lately. The
Me
new
too.
fancy kind of brewery restaurant just opened up in town, and we went in. They don't have a standard menu. You just do the QR code, and I thought I was going to hate it. And man, I loved it. I'm just like, one beer, select, and it just came to the table. It's cool tech. So on the tech side of Ticketsauce, is it mostly just links, or are there like integrations, like with like email software or anything like that? Like, say you wanted like in your newsletter to be like advertise this concert coming up, and you just click right through there. I guess it would just be a hyperlink to the checkout page or whatever. Is that kind of how it works? Are there any other integrations on that side I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, so we have a couple integrations. One is with MailChimp. And what that does is it brings all of the ticket buyer data into the MailChimp account in kind of real time. And so it's always syncing. Of course, if people don't opt in, they're not coming into that MailChimp account. But that's one of the integrations. We also just started a partnership with Hive. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Hive marketing. Awesome, though. And that allows for some like event blocks to be added to your newsletter so you can connect them directly from the platform into your newsletter. And of course, it's also taking in attendee data and all of those. And then we also have Zapier as an integration. So that would, of course, bring in any data from the ticketing platform into whatever you're using for your email marketing, as long as they're also connected with Zapier.
Right. That's the cool thing with Zapier is you can kind of
Mm-hmm.
build out your own spider web of of
Yeah.
whatever you want things to do. This to go there, that to go there. So I could see that definitely being an important one. All right, Ken, you tell us some success stories or just case studies from local media companies you've worked with, like one or two like
Yeah.
specifics that have worked out really well and been like maybe a light bulb moment for them even from getting on the platform.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So I've had 8 years of this. So I've gotten the opportunity to work with all sorts of media companies, right? And people that have already had a ticketing brand kind of established, and we helped transition them over to new tech, or they're launching a ticketing brand just from scratch. And it's never an overnight success, but it is worth it. And it starts with connections and what local event creators the media company may already be working with, and leveraging those relationships. So one of my favorite success stories is from a media company in South Carolina. They started off by going after a large scale, well known annual like community festival in their market. And it's an approach that not everybody takes because they're, scared, right? You don't want to start with the biggest thing first, but
Right.
it really worked for them. In the first year with this festival, they did over 25,000 tickets sold and generated over $50,000 in ticket fees. I think it was actually closer to like 62,000. And ultimately that event not only, had a ton of ticket fee revenue for them, but it resulted in more referrals for their ticketing brand and more events wanting to use the platform. And so that huge piece of exposure right in the very beginning really did kind of fast track them to success. And in the first 14 months that they had been launched, they generated over $140,000 in ticket fee revenue. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's definitely something I would recommend if you're going to do ticketing. Go after the big fish. The platform's been around for years and years and years. It can handle large scale events like that. So why not start big, right? Another good success story, kind of in a different vein, more about the advertising piece of this, is from a station in the Memphis market. And they leveraged their ticketing brand to incentivize a local event creator to get just a taste of their marketing power. Because this event creator had been somebody that they had been pitching for years. They were trying to get them to buy an advertising package for like multiple years. And they were convinced that the media company didn't have the right audience for them. But after the first year of using that ticketing platform, which was completely free for the event organizer, keep in mind, they did get a taste of the exposure that they would get. And they ended up doing over 18,000 in advertising spend each year for now the past 5 years that they've been using that platform. And that's in addition to that free marketing that they were getting already through that Memphis partner. So another great example of how you can, leverage something that's completely free for somebody to use and turn it into, advertising revenue.
Wow, that's so cool. I really like that tactic of like somebody you've had on the line for a while. You're like, no,
Yeah.
it is a right fit, and they're like, I don't know. It's hard to spend those
Yeah.
advertising dollars if you're a small business. I could say that from experience. And then you just be like, here, just try this, and it's an awesome kind of way in. I was just listening. I was just talking to someone the other day. I don't remember if it was on the podcast or just a call, and he mentioned that when we were talking about revenue for local publishers in specific, that they found the kind of like this Goldilocks zone for revenue streams between 2 and 6. If you had less than 2, or so just one revenue stream, it was not good for sustainability. If you had more than 6, it was almost equally bad. But a lot of people I've talked to in the space are, maybe 3 or 4 different kind of things ringing the cash register. And that's just another awesome way to bulk up to your 6, your magic number, your 5 or 6 or whatever in there. Man, that's so cool. Yeah, I'm really glad I had you on because I was like, I think
Me
this is
too.
going to be interesting. I'm not real. I think I see how it fits. And that's why it's nice coming in as like a kind of complete outsider. Like, how does everything work? And then it's like all these light bulbs to go off and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've been doing this for years, working with local publishers. What would you tell somebody, a local publisher, like what should they be thinking about if they're considering focusing more on events for their businesses? Like what are some red and green flags to just think about, like when going down this road,
For sure.
getting in? Yeah.
So I'd say if they're wanting to take their event strategy to the next level, they can do that beyond hosting like more of their own events, right? They don't have to just host their own events and that's the event strategy at the end. They can start small. They can add more event content to their sites, their publications, whatever. They could use an automated event calendar. That's a very low effort way to add event content. Now, the downfall of that, of course, is that a lot of the event calendars that are automated like that, they'll share data across multiple areas in the market. So you do run the risk of highlighting a lot of the same events that your competitors are. But, you could also maybe sponsor more events in your community, getting your name associated with really cool things to do in your market. It's a great way to kind of become that go-to spot for people to discover and advertise their events. And of course, sponsoring events isn't quite as risky as creating your own event. Of course, there is a cost, but if you have your own ticketing platform, you can use that and those ticket fees as a way to subsidize those costs. And as far as deciding whether or not ticketing is for them as a media company, there are a few things that I look for when I'm looking for new partners, green flags, right? So they have a strong event strategy or they want to build on they want to build on an event strategy. Their audience might already think of them as that go-to place for event discovery or event promotion. Another one would be if they're in a small to mid-sized market where there's some tourism pull or there's a local college or a university, something that's kind of has a small population, but increases that population to support the event. Or, maybe they're in a large scale market, but they are kind of that, they own a lot of the market share. They are that go-to spot for event promotion already. That still works in the large market. Another green flag, maybe they have an interest in creating new revenue opportunities and they want to add to their digital product portfolio. That's certainly not every media company out there, right? Some people are, like we were talking about, at their limit of revenue streams, but if they do have room for new revenue to be brought in, new product to be brought in, ticketing is a great fit. And the red flag, maybe they don't want to invest in building relationships with local media company, with local event creators. in their community. They don't want to be a true partner in local events. That would be a red flag. I would not suggest ticketing to you if you're not interested in that. Or maybe they don't have any event creators in their existing advertiser base. Maybe they don't have a ton of event content on their sites or in their publications. Of course, that could become a green flag if you're wanting to invest in becoming the go-to spot for event discovery and promotion, but it would be a slower road. But if it's something you want to do, something you want to invest in, turn that red flag green and really work towards it and invest in that event content. And of course, none of these are strict rules or strict flags. There's always exceptions, especially if an event strategy is something that the media company is really wanting to explore and invest in. And yeah.
Awesome. One thing that came to mind when you were talking there about maybe a smaller mid-sized market, but there's like some event that comes in or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like right down the road for me is Telluride, and it's a town of 2,400 people, I think. Mm-hmm. And then once, twice a year, the Bluegrass Festival comes in, and it's a town of like 10,000 all of a sudden, coming in to see that. So it's like, that's just what kind of came to mind there. Oh, so something else did come up that I don't think I asked you before. So I don't know if there's much use case for this or demand for it, but I'm assuming you could also use Ticketsauce for like digital events, say like webinars or like something like that. Would that kind of work the same way as a concert or something like that?
Absolutely. Yep. You could do virtual events on the platform. You can, it still works the same. Yep.
Okay. And I didn't know what that would be, but you just kind of change the location to this Zoom webinar or whatever instead of,
Exactly. And it's funny, I was talking to a media company that's potentially coming on board, and I won't blow their spot up, right? But they host an event called Pints and Politics, which, again, not blowing them up. I'm pretty sure that's a fairly standard event here. But they do Pints and Politics, and they have a season package. You can get, all 7 events at once. And they're even talking about adding on merchandise, like pint glass that's branded or, whatever other kind of merchandise they come up with. With the Ticketsauce platform, you can enable merchandise as well, or ticket add-ons and things like that. So really, like, the possibilities of how you could use this they're endless, really.
That's awesome, because even you could build into that even, I love those for any kind of business, but especially, local publishers, those kind of upsells. There's those little easy upsells, like, look at this cool T-shirt, and you don't even have to keep it in stock. You can do print on demand or something for that, and get it sent out. So that's another really good tactic. Awesome.
Yeah. And we also support donations, so they can accept donations at checkout
of course.
too. So why not support local journalism?
Yeah. Can you, if your company and you do your ticketing brand, can you customize your like checkout page or anything, or is it kind of standard for every event? Can you like add a button here, like you said, for donations or the color scheme, stuff like that, all that stuff?
Yep. So it's all customizable. Yep. You can change the way it looks, the colors, the logos, the words, even if you want it to say RSVP on your tickets instead of get tickets.
I see.
You can make it say RSVP. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Sarah, I think we touched on everything I had there. What have I missed? Have I missed anything that you'd like that I didn't touch on? I think I quenched my thirst for trying to understand the whole thing. It really did kind of get through my skull talking with you, but what else is there?
No, I think, to get it bite-sized, I think that's about it. The more I talk, the more in the weeds we'll get on things. Like you get very confusing very quickly. So ultimately, I think we covered it.
Yeah, that's broad strokes. I think it paints a good picture. And if, somebody is, there's a local publisher out there who's like, oh, like me, like, oh, why am I not doing that? They can investigate further for themselves. All right. What else where can people find you and Ticketsauce? What else would you like to promote or share or anything like that, or want me to link to in the show notes?
Yeah. So my LinkedIn page is a great way to connect. I have a bit.ly that links right over to it. So it's the bit.ly/Sara Mac, MAC, and no H for Sarah. And then if you want to go to ticketsauce.com, you can see everything else that we have going on. And then you could also email me if you want to connect directly. And that's smcnamara @ticketsauce.com. Check us out.
Awesome. So cool. I'll link to all that stuff and I'll put it out in the newsletter and all that stuff too. So awesome. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. This is better than I expected. That didn't sound good. It was very illuminating. It was like, it's really awesome when you just like have an aha moment, like in real time. And
Mhm.
like, oh, duh. Like, so I was hoping that's what
Right.
this would be, and that's what it turned out to be. So
I'm so glad you invited me. It was fun.
yeah. Thanks
I
for
like
coming on.
talking about it.
Yeah,
There's only so
awesome.
many people that will actually like let me
Right.
talk and talk and talk.
It's the beauty of podcasts. You can find people that are interested in just about anything these days, especially like what
Oh, it's
you're into.
perfect.
So cool. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you for listening to Small Press Big Ideas. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to help the show, the best thing you can do is to tell a friend or colleague and just take a few minutes to leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to right now. It only takes a minute out of your day, but it really does help the podcast grow and reach more ears. Check back for new episodes every Monday.